All right, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Very honored to have you here in our today's video. So this is a subject that somebody else requested, and I see is quite a popular subject, especially with what's cycling right now in the field of spirituality, in the space of self-development, and of course, the manifestation space. So what I'm going to be speaking about is the law of assumption. What exactly is the law of assumption? How does it actually work? Does it actually work? I'll be sharing my own personal experience with it. And I'm going to be giving you a deeper insight into what you really need to know about the law of assumption so that it really doesn't end up making you feel extremely empty on the inside and sort of create a life that is actually not congruent to your authentic self. And this is where a lot of people are currently struggling with the law of assumption. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. So what exactly is the law of assumption? Basically, what the law of assumption is if you can assume the energetic state on an emotional level and a mental level of your desired outcome or something that you desire to manifest, then you're going to be able to manifest that thing into your reality. Now, the reason why this is so flashy and this is something that so many people put on a pedestal is because so many of us, when we think of a life of happiness and joy and excitement, if you're not really aware and you really allow yourself to take this deeper look, you can oftentimes see that that's when you think about that type of lifestyle, you almost immediately start thinking about materialistic types of things. You think about a nicer car, you think about a nicer house, you think about a nicer environment, you think about, oftentimes even physical people, like there's this type of person and we're doing this fun thing together. Okay, so of course it's going to be flashy. Of course it's going to be alluring when someone tells you that you have an ability to sort of tap into the energetic resonance of whatever desired outcome it is that you're wanting to manifest. And then if you can actually do this consistently and be patient with your process, you can actually manifest what it is that you're trying to, resonate with by essentially controlling your inner state. So that is going to be one of the biggest key words that I want you to notice about the law of assumption is this essence of controlling your inner state. Because if you can control your frequency, if you can control your energetic resonance and think more in a positive way, and also generate feelings from inside that resonate with happiness, acceptance, joy, love, excitement, fun, all of those types of feelings, then you can broadcast that frequency and be an attraction point to bring those things in. So, does the law of assumption actually work? The answer to this question is yes, it really does work. You literally can control your inner state. Some people are better at doing that than others. There are people that literally practice the law of assumption and practice the art of manifestation in this type of way. And these people can get really good at manifesting things that they desire to manifest when it comes usually to the physical things. And I see this is what is so misunderstood about the law of assumption and how most people approach it. The things that you're manifesting, once again, from your energetic state, this is what I need you to understand about this, because this is the big difference between how I understand it compared to your typical person that you might stumble across that's teaching this type of stuff, okay? when you're being authentic with yourself, that means you're being congruent with what is truly going on within your system. And that means you're aligning with that literally at a nervous system level. So what it means to be truly authentic means you are in full acceptance of both lower vibration and higher vibrations, both positive and negative energies. Now, I know right there that already triggers some people, because some people are saying, well, Jer, if you're telling me that I can create my reality by controlling my inner state, putting myself more in a positive energy, then why would I even allow myself to go into that deeper abyss that's inside of my system that ends up putting me in a lower frequency? Because I don't want to keep cyclically manifesting from that lower frequency state. So why would you tell me that being authentic means I have to be in acceptance with that energy too? Well, think about this. You're a human being. We're all humans. And every single one of us has been through trauma. Your body from this trauma has kept the score, which means whether you're aware of it or not, there's probably some deeper things you're dealing with right now, like loneliness, abandonment, betrayals, fear, anxiety, sadness, anger, grief, all of these different feelings that are in your system. No matter how strong you are mentally, no matter how positive you want to make yourself, no matter how much you think you can or that you want to tap into the law of assumption, if you're really aware of yourself and your body, you might recognize that these things are here. You may be telling yourself a story that the more you can just pretend like those things aren't there, put yourself in this positive state and control your emotions and your mind, you may think that there will come a time where you can override the negative energy in your body and basically escape it so that it doesn't have to bother you anymore and you never have to look back. And when you are coming from the approach of trying to control what you're feeling internally and manage it in order to become something new, to create a positive reality, you are never, ever, 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 ever going to get to where you truly want to get and heal those deeper wounds in your system. Because the only way you can actually heal this negative repressed energy in the system is by getting curious about it in the first place and then being in acceptance with it and letting yourself feel it so that you can heal it and ultimately integrate it. It's no different than a child. If you had a kid, let's say there is a 5-year-old version of you that is your kid, and your kid came up to you and said, Mom, Dad, I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling lonely. As a parent, is your first response to say, oh, well, cheer up, be happy. Once you're cheered up and once you're happy, I'll love you. Once you're more positive and once you're, manifesting what you need to manifest in the world around you, then I'll love you. You wouldn't do that, most likely, right? And the reason why you wouldn't do that is because you probably could clearly recognize that that would be an abusive behavior towards this child. That would be like a form of abandonment within itself, because you're not allowing this kid to just feel what they're feeling and experience what they're experiencing. So that's the key. You want to be with that version of you, that younger version of you, and say, oh, you're feeling sad, you're feeling angry, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling afraid. That's okay. I'm with you and I'm not going anywhere. And I want you to know that even though you're feeling these feelings and you're in this lower vibrational state, I still love you where you are. You don't need to change in order for me to love you. So this is how most of us would operate if we were parents to our own children. But what are we doing to ourselves when it comes to the law of assumption? What we're doing to ourselves is the complete opposite of what I just described. In the law of assumption, for the way that most people are applying it and practicing it, they are completely and utterly abandoning their own inner child to say, you are not worthy right where you are, and you are not deserving of love right where you are, because I think that this is a low vibrational state. I think this energy is bad, and I don't feel safe and loved or accepted by the world around me if I sit with you and if I be present with you. So therefore, I'm going to control my own inner child. I'm going to push it further in the dark corner, and I'm going to find ways to sort of convince myself and literally self-hypnotize. That's actually literally what most people are doing with the law of assumption. They are self-hypnotizing to then override and create a positive inner state. So even though I have fear and I have shame and I have anger in my system and my inner child is carrying it, I'm pushing that to the side as much as I can, and I'm calling on happiness, joy, love, acceptance, excitement, euphoria. I'm calling on these other feelings and these other emotions, and I'm assuming these as my identity, as my primary state, even though my body is still holding on to that shame, that fear, that guilt, that anger. So you can do this. This does work only until it doesn't. Okay, so if you really practice this in the way that I'm describing it now, and you follow other people that teach the law of assumption, or you follow other people that are manifestation masters, if you follow them long enough, you will come to a point in their content creation or in their development where you will actually eventually see them turn away from that form of manifesting, because they're not healing the core wounds and they're not really being their authentic self. What most of these people don't understand is that they're manifesting from a place of lack. Even though they've gotten really good at convincing themselves and hypnotizing themselves into positive energy states, they're still manifesting from a deeper rooted space of lack, which means everything that they're manifesting is more so surface level. Why do I know this? Because I've done it. I got really good at things like the law of assumption and my manifestations. Look at my life right now. Okay, I've manifested a whole bunch of things. I currently live in my own condo. I live in, 10 minutes away from the beach in a beautiful location in Florida. I have 7 single family homes that I own in regards to real estate investing. I've done really well for myself in crypto. I've made over $300,000 in crypto investments in less than 3 months. What else have I manifested? I've manifested a good physical body, like I literally have a 6-pack, all of these things. So I know what it's like to manifest. I know how to manifest. I've manifested friendships and relationships. I've manifested a successful YouTube channel, a successful business. I've done all these things. Now, to be quite honest with you and to be quite transparent, I've also done a lot of these things from a place of not being my most authentic self. And I'm very aware of that. And I'm willing to admit that and to be transparent about that, because who am I fooling? Who am I fooling other than myself? So the point of me sharing that is that I know what it's like to self-hypnotize. I know what it's like to convince myself. I know what it's like to, when I tell you self-hypnotize, I'm talking about on a deep level, like to the point where I do rituals and occult stuff in order to convince myself to feel certain ways and to believe certain things, that then it does work. It does manifest these things. But I will say this too, only to a certain level. And the reason why it's only to a certain level is because everything you're manifesting is also filtered with what you're repressing. So when you have that deeper shame, fear, abandonment, betrayal, grief and sadness, anger, when you have these wounds inside of your system, which most of us do to some degree, your manifestations, if you're going about it this way, are going to be filtered through those wounds. And they're also only going to be surface. So notice how most of the things, for example, that I've been able to manifest, and this is not undermining anything that I do in life. This doesn't undermine who I am as a person, the hard work that I put in, the effort of the things that I've done to get to where I'm at. And I'm not saying that I have been inauthentic my whole life either. But what I am saying is that I did get really good at this concept of the law of assumption as well as manifestation. And I have seen it directly work to the point where I could literally spend $10,000, guarantee it would come back within 3 days. And I've done it over and over and over again. But notice how a lot of these things that I described as the things that I manifested, notice how a lot of them was surface layered things. So rather than it being more so of a true state of embodiment, a true state of safety, and a true state of like inner peace of knowing that I'm myself and being able to just exist in that state, that's really what most of us and all of us are truly at our deeper core looking for. But when it comes to approaching the law of assumption in these more bypassy types of ways, we're more focused on the materialistic side of things. So once again, a lot of money, investments, new home, new car, physical relationships with other people that don't get to go that step deeper in regards to the bond and the connection. Because once again, you're not being your truest self when you're manifesting those relationships. So you're manifesting other people that are also resonating with that same ideology of the law of assumption, which means they're probably doing the same thing within their own system when it comes to self-abandonment and betrayal. So how do those relationships usually pan out in the long run? They usually self-sabotage. And what you'll notice, this is the dark side of the law of assumption, you'll notice that there is a lot of self-sabotaging that takes place even with the things that you are manifesting. So, even though I've manifested a lot of wonderful things, financially and materialistically, I've also wasted a lot of money on stupid shit that, like, if I could go back in time and then take that money and be wiser with it and reinvest it for my future and for my family and for my future kids, I would have done something completely different rather than buying a gold chain with diamonds and a pendant. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have spent so much money going out and enjoying myself in all these like places like theme parks, like Universal Studios, and just buying all this food out to eat at restaurants and all that stuff, right? I would have been more grounded, more in myself, more wise for what we could say the long term. Okay? So this is that darker side of the law of assumption that most people aren't going to tell you, because most people that are currently teaching this way of being or this way of practice are still in the process of convincing themselves and trying to hypnotize themselves to be a better manifester. And what most people don't know is that the reason why people are doing this is because they're ashamed to be who they really are. There's a lot of toxic shame that these people carry on to that is the feeling of not being good enough as yourself. So it's like, I have to be in this perpetual energetic state of good vibrations, high frequencies, positive thinking, so that I can manifest these positive things into my life and I can get this continuous positive feedback loop of, yes, it's working, people like me, people love me, I'm manifesting more security through money, I'm doing this, a nicer house, a nicer car, that makes me feel better because I'm now more worthy. What people don't know is that underneath of that mask and underneath of this whole act or this performance, there's still a wounded inner child in there. There's a very sensitive, gentle, younger, and most likely trapped version of yourself that just wants to be accepted and loved and honored where it is. And so many of us are sending these communications to that part of ourselves saying, you're not worthy. You're only loved when you're being this way. You're only loved when you're performing. You're only loved when you're manifesting. You're only loved when other people love you, right? So it becomes this terrible cycle. And then if you're someone that's really healing and you're really doing the work, because being a master at the law of assumption, there's a path for that. There's a time and a place for that. For example, for me, I had to get really good at that, create a lot of things for me to kind of get to that pinnacle point where I realized this isn't me. This isn't what I like. None of this really made me happy. Truly, it didn't make me more satisfied as myself and feel more like this is who I am. It was all kind of like an addiction. It was just chasing and chasing and chasing. And then for me, thankfully, I had some really big fallouts with certain relationships that I had built between a friend and an actual romantic partner at the time. And those relationships were actually manifested from that place where I was more in that energy of the law of assumption and embodying that energetic state so that you can manifest better things. And, those relationships showed me my shadow. They showed me what was really going on under the surface. And that wasn't an easy thing to, accept. But me being me, I'm also a very, wise person. And I do have true integrity and intentions to go through self-discovery. And that's what I allowed myself to do. I surrendered that mask and I no longer allowed myself to feed it anymore. It's not to say that it's completely gone. I can still work with that part of me and I have love for that part of me, but I no longer identify myself with it. So I don't attach to it and I don't perpetuate that self-hypnotism to keep it going. Whereas the older version of me was doing that. Okay. So yeah, that's like the main thing that I want you to know about the law of assumption. Don't get caught up in that. When it comes to your process, controlling is not the answer. Having your agenda, trying to control it, trying to manipulate all this stuff, it is not your answer. I promise you. Take it from me. I've done enough controlling. I've done enough manipulating. It's not the answer that you're truly looking for. And we are currently existing in a culture and in a society at large that promotes this way of being and this type of behavior. So don't fall into this loop of thinking this is what it means to be embodied, or think that this is what it means to be truly healed, or this is what it means to be worthy. None of that matters. It's about you learning to accept you right where you are and doing the things that you need to do to create that healthier foundation so that you can start feeling safer over time. And when you're properly doing the inner work, which means you're in acceptance and you're feeling through the heavy emotions as well as the positive ones. I mean, it's easy to feel positive emotions for most of us, but when it comes to the heavier ones, what most people refer to as the lower vibrational ones, that's where we oftentimes experience our resistance. And that's where we experience that little struggle where it's like, do I let myself feel this fully? Do I mask it? Do I do something else? Do I distract myself? If you can really let yourself go with those ebbs and those flows, then what you'll start to realize is you actually start becoming more embodied in what I like to call self-energy, your true self-energy. And every single one of us has a self-energy. It's just that most of us are operating from these parts of ourself, what I like to call the protector parts. These are the parts that like to manage everything. They like to control everything. They like to manipulate things. They like to keep you safe, protect you from your core wounds, because that's what they had to do at some point in your past to literally keep you alive. But the difference is now you're not living in your past anymore. You're an adult and you're ready to actually self-discover. You're ready to actually heal. And now you also have the room to create the capacity that you need to go into the darker shit and actually understand how to work with it. Whereas in the past, you probably didn't know how to do that and you couldn't do that. Okay? So this is what's very important to know. Yeah. I think that's the main essence of what I wanted to communicate in this today's video. The law of assumption is a real energetic principle. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. When you're truly going through your process authentically, it's going to take a little bit more time to understand how to regulate your nervous system and then up-regulate it into a safety state or the ventral vagal state, which is the green light state of the system. The law of assumption still applies. I mean, it's a universal law. It's when you're in the state of what you're wanting to attract, you do attract it. The only problem with the law of assumption is people are leaving, they're dissociating from their self energy to become something else that's not authentic in order to create that reality. But you can also authentically, quote unquote, raise your vibration by going through the dark night of the soul, or those darker times and that death process, to get a rebirth that is organic, that is natural, that you sit with. You're not controlling it, but you're being present with it, and you're basically watching it happen within your system itself. And as your vibration, resonance, frequency, as that starts to change and resonate at a faster rate, you also are going to notice more freedom, more abundance, more success, more money, more all of these things, deeper relationships, true relationships, because you're going to have gone through the real process, and you will have had that true relationship to yourself the whole way through. So there was no inner abandonment or betrayals in order for you to create what you wanted. So you don't have that filter of all that repressed energy that's seeping through. Rather, you get an organic creation of like powerful experiences, powerful reality, powerful relationships, and most importantly, a powerful embodied state of like, yes, this is truly me, and this is me in my, in my safety state, feeling good, feeling regulated, feeling grounded, feeling safe as myself. Okay? So I want you to know that. Do not fall for these people that are teaching law of assumption. That's like the biggest takeaway. Don't think that's the answer, because it's not. If anyone teaches you to be inauthentic in order to create a life you want to live, do not listen to those people. Do not listen to those people. Now, of course, if you want to go down that road and you want to learn through that path, go ahead. But take it from me. Use this advice to your best advantage, and do not listen to those people. Unsubscribe from those channels. Maybe just take a break and contemplate some of this deeper stuff, and then revisit and just see if you can notice anything that feels incongruent or feels off. Trust your intuition, trust your instincts. I'm not telling you anything truly that you don't already know. There's just some of you that need that extra, like oomph to really trust themselves. So hopefully this could offer you some perspective. So how do I operate in my life now? I don't, for the most part, I don't try to, and I'm not perfect, right? So I still have the parts of me that like to control things or manipulate things or force things when they shouldn't have to be forced. I still work with those parts of me, but I'm very aware of them. So I can work with them in a much more grounded, intuitive, healthy way. But I do my best, and I practice not needing to be in control. I practice every day surrendering, letting go, and working more on where am I internally, and can I allow myself to be honest with that and to be in true acceptance and just feel through where I'm currently at, and then do things that support that state. Okay, so what if I'm feeling this way, what can I do today that sort of aligns with this way that I'm feeling, that supports me to, the word's not feel better, but supports me to feel more true to myself. And I've already noticed it's changed, tons of my relationships. It's changed the way that I live my life. There's a lot of things that have changed for the better from just going through this little shift. I think most importantly, it's made me feel a lot less stressed internally, because I didn't realize that always having to manifest in order to be worthy, that's survival stress. So when you make a big shift and you come out of survival stress and you just start accepting yourself right where you are as you are, yeah, at first it might feel really uncomfortable because there's going to be a lot of stuff there that you have to kind of be with. But over time, it starts to feel like really regenerative. That's the best word. Regenerative. It's like, whoa, I'm just with me right now. I don't have to hold a mask. I don't have to perform. I don't have to do something. Just being me is enough. Okay? So we'll leave it here. If you got value, thumbs it up. Drop down in the comment section. Let me know what you learned. Let me know if you resonated. Let me know if you've gone through this process before. I'd love to hear that. Hit the notification bell. Get notified whenever I'm posting. Definitely make sure you tap into that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share this video with someone who needs it. Check out my Patreon. I have a trauma healing course from start to finish on everything you need to know to process your really deep-rooted trauma, all the stuff that I've actually used in my life to get back in touch with my self-energy and heal some very significant childhood wounds. It's all the stuff that I've used in my own life that I am also teaching on my Patreon. So I highly recommend you look into that because I really do believe it could completely transform your life. Okay, then there's tier number 3, which is an actual ritual. It's a remote energy transfer from me to you that is designed to help release trapped trauma that's in your body to bring it up to the surface of your conscious awareness so you can start accepting it, working with it, feeling through it, and healing it, and then ultimately releasing it from your system. That's going to help you ground more into yourself. As you ground more into yourself, it's going to start changing your energetic resonance naturally. And then over time, it will start shifting the world around you. But none of this is a quick fix. This is a real committed process that you have to go through. But if you're willing to do the inner work, I guarantee you this can be a significant catalyst to get your process going. So all of this, first link below. Second link is one-on-one calls if you want to work with me directly one-on-one or jump into mentorships. I have a 6-week and a 3-month. I would be honored to work with you. Second link. And then the final link is the YouTube memberships. Join the family on YouTube. You'll get special shout outs, especially when I do live streams. Okay, I got a call I got to get on. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day or night wherever you are. And I will see you in the next video. Later.